Hey, welcome to our Manney Resources, our live training for today, for Saturday. And we are so excited to be able to have you jump on here with us. And we're just going to check a couple of our sound levels here for just a minute. And then we're going to dive in. And so if you've been tracking along with us over the last several weeks, we kicked off Manney Resources is all about how to help you grow your faith so you can change your life. And really the core of what we do is we help folks have resources in hand so they can go ahead and create a morning time routine. We talk about 30 to Thrive, 10 minutes in reading your Bible or devotional, 10 minutes journaling, and then 10 minutes reading something to help you in your personal life, your spiritual walk, with your relationships, or your career. And so we want to have resources for you to help you in your spiritual growth journey. We've talked about how to help your kids journal last week. We've talked about how to create awesome verse images, and so you can go back through and look at some of the replays, or if you're on our YouTube channel, you can go ahead and look at some of those other video trainings. For today, we've got a fantastic workbook in store for you, and so we have put a lot of time and thought into this, and small groups has been something we've been doing for I don't know how many years now. 6 years or so, like officially. We did small groups like back with RU way back when.
That's true.
You know, kind of. And so if you are interested in getting the workbook, we're going to go ahead and drop let's see if I can find this. Do you have the link there? Otherwise, I can see if I can kind of drop it in here. You got it?
I think.
Otherwise, I can go ahead and let's see if I can drop this in here for us too.
I might not have the link actually.
Let me go ahead. I'm going to drop in a link right now. This is a form that you can go ahead and just click on that link. And that'll take you to a form that'll go ahead and have an awesome workbook for you. And you can go ahead and follow along with the notes. So even if you have to just take a minute here, we'll keep rolling. And then you can jump back in here and join us once you have those notes as well. Or you can go ahead and download them at the end of the training this morning. All right, we're going to go ahead and jump in. We have our set of notes here, and so we're going to go ahead and go to our slides. Small group training. Smiling people looks like lots of fun, or it could be terrifying depending on your your personality. And so we're going to talk through. Let's see here just for a minute. Let's see if this will work. There we go. We are looking at this verse of scripture here, and it's from I'm laughing because on my screen I can't see it very well, so I'm going to try to see if I can pull up let's see, there we go, we're all squared away here. Acts chapter 2 verse 42, and we'll start there. This is kind of the basis for why small groups are so important. So the church is just getting formed, and the writer Luke says this, verse 42, all the believers devoted themselves to the apostles' teaching and to fellowship and to sharing in meals. We'll stop there for just a minute. You look at some of the bold words there, that they devoted themselves, so that's collectively a group, to the apostles' teaching. So that's going to be a part of what small groups is about. To fellowship, just getting together. That's another aspect of just spending time together. To sharing meals together, my favorite. Amanda's going to talk about why it's so important. Sometimes we get a little bit of kickback from people. Why do we have to eat all the time? Is that like a Baptist thing? We'll talk about that in a little bit. And then in the next verse 44, it says, and all the believers met together. So again, there's that word. I want you to just take note how many times it talks about groups or being together in one place, and shared everything they had. Verse 46, they worshiped together at the temple each day. So that's group worship, like going to church. And they met in homes for the Lord's Supper. Again, this idea of big collective group and then smaller group. And they shared meals with great joy and generosity. So again, there's this concept of spending time together around a meal. Verse 47, and all the while praising God and enjoying the goodwill of all the people. So again, this idea of getting together brings about enjoyment and joy and goodwill. And each day the Lord added to their fellowship, again, that togetherness, those who are being saved. So one of the amazing things about this is that small groups, they hit so many different aspects of what it means to be a part of church, a part of the body of Christ, the family of God. And the challenge for us is small groups aren't really natural. Some statistics say that most adults, by the time they get into their 30s and 40s, about half of all adults really struggle, first of all, to make friends. But then most adults by that point only have anywhere from 2 to 3 friends, maybe. And most times they maybe have just one friend or none at all that they can consider close friends. And so it's one of those things that kind of throws you back to elementary school when you're your first day of school trying to get to know people. That emotion for some people, especially for introverts, can be magnified and say, you know what, I don't need a tribe. I don't need people to track with. But we see from those scriptures the challenge and encouragement for us. The goal ultimately is that there is honoring God, there is encouragement for each other, a sense of belonging, of that enjoyment and goodwill, and a lot of it, if you noticed over and over again, togetherness, meals being shared, fellowship. And one of the amazing outcomes is that people who aren't believers, people who are not followers of Jesus, are attracted to what's happening. And so one of our greatest opportunities to reach people is really through the use of small groups and gathering together. And so we'll go over our content for today, and we'll look at the next couple pictures here for us. Amanda's going to talk through this for us. This is a snapshot of our group.
So our group, I think we started with the current group we have right now, probably about 6 years ago, I think. We were in several groups before that, tried kind of mixing around this group and that group, and it probably took about a year or two to kind of get settled, to kind of figure out what the group was going to be, and who was going to be in the group. But this is our group that we've been tracking with for about 6 years. One of the couples is newer to the group. They've joined within the last year, but the other two we've been with for several years. Our growth group is rather large. We have, on any given Tuesday night, we have between 21 to 25 people that meet. It just depends on people's schedules if they can make it or not. So our group is pretty large. We have, I think, 13 or 14 of those are kids. So we're going to kind of explain how growth groups work, what works and doesn't work. Our group is definitely on the larger side. We're looking to split ours eventually. This is a picture of all the kids. So we have a very large group, but we have an awesome time every Tuesday night at our house. So that's kind of a look into our house. Today, during this training, we're going to go through these 4 sections and kind of give you an inside look at how to do group, what's it look like, what should we eat, where should we meet, all those good questions. So Matt is going to jump in.
We're going to go ahead and we'll jump into talking about group dynamics. And so let me just check my notes here for us. With group dynamics, one of the things that we're going to try to break down are some of the myths of jumping into a group, really how to start. And so we're going to go step by step, and we're going to go ahead and just pull up the next slide for us. And we're going to talk about this acronym. This is really going to be kind of the thread that's going to help us through this whole process. Were you covering this host part? I'll do it. And so if you look there in the picture there, we have HOST. H-O-S-T is the acronym for us. And so the key to having a great small group is knowing how to host. The first step is having a heart for people. If you're not really a people person, it's going to come through. And so one of the things that I will mention with this is as a host, this is kind of the Mary Martha kind of syndrome, if you will, or kind of how you can work together. Even if you say, I'm not really a people person, that's okay. If you have a heart for people, though, that you want to serve people, but you're not out front, that's no problem. One of the things that you can do, and encouragement is, if you're going to start a group, and we really encourage us to have at least 2 people involved in this idea of one person. If you're going to have a group that's large, one person is the host, where they can go ahead and do the prep work and setting things up. And if they're kind of that organizer type for us, like a Martha from that story from the scriptures where Jesus is there in the house and they're having a small group. Martha's in the kitchen and she goes to Jesus and says, Mary's not helping. Well, Mary, she's kind of helping to facilitate some of the networking. She's more extroverted. And so maybe you're not the one who's going to lead the discussion, but you can help set the stage. And that's really one of the big things that Amanda does in our situation, that she helps to get everybody on track and organized and checks in with everybody. And as far as the hosting part goes, she loves to go ahead and text everybody, hey, you ready for tonight? Who's bringing what? And then if we have to cancel anything like that, but being able to facilitate, my part of it is, hey, I get the discussion group going and welcoming everybody and chit-chatting. And so if you come to our house on a Tuesday night, Amanda, I'll help her in the kitchen getting everything ready and getting the meal going. But then as soon as we've got folks coming, I'll sit down and she'll keep kind of things going in the kitchen. That's just what works for us. And so whatever your temperament is, I would encourage you to have somebody come along with you to be able to help you with the hosting process. The second part is this. O is for open your home, to open a door or space or place to meet. We have right now 5 small groups meeting, 3 of which are not in homes. We have one is online. It's a Zoom group that meets digitally. And then we have 2 that actually one meets in a grocery store, of all places, if you can imagine that. They have like a buffet area that's called Wegmans. And so they have high, nice gourmet kind of food. Another group meets at a Panera right now. And so even if you say like, my house, I don't know if I want people to come in my house, that's okay. There are other opportunities. If you have an office space, or maybe you can meet, sometimes libraries are a quiet place to meet, a coffee shop, or even going out to, if the weather's nice, wherever you're at, you can go out into a park somewhere. But you can really make this work. You just have to find a space for at minimum just 2 people to be able to get together. The next one is about serving. S is to serve a cup of coffee or some kind of refreshment, or if you want to go so far as to serve a meal. And I'm going to have Amanda, she'll come back here in just a minute, and she'll talk more about that for us. But if you notice back there in Acts 2, chapter 2, it talked multiple times about the meal and why it's so important. And so I'll have Amanda talk about that in just a minute. And then the T is this. It's really simple. You say, I'm not a Bible expert. Can I do this? Yes, you can. All you have to do is to be able to turn on a video, push play for a DVD, pull up the live stream, or turn the page in a book or the Bible, and we'll put some tools in your hands so you can be able to do that. All you have to do is to be able to facilitate the discussion and get things going. So that's it for group dynamics. And then we have, when it comes to some of the group dynamics, spiritual growth in a group benefits your faith in several ways. And so when it comes to group dynamics, there is face-to-face accountability that cultivate the drive you need to make change. So being together in a group. Common ground is another aspect. It's built by sharing experiences, questions, discovering new concepts together is another way to grow spiritually. We can have differing viewpoints as a part of the growth process to build empathy and camaraderie. And one of the things that we were even just talking about the other day was the group of people that we are together with. Other than the church, we don't work together. We don't go to the same grocery stores or anything like that. We met because of church. That was kind of the common ground for us to be able to get our group started. But that's not the only way to have a group get started. We'll talk about that toward the end of the discussion, training how to do that. But because of our different backgrounds, it gives us an incredible empathy for each other, from even just the racial mix-up that we have. For all of us who are coming from a life stage of being young parents with young kids, and so that's kind of the life stage that we're all in, and we'll talk more about how that comes into play. But you get different viewpoints, and it's really healthy to be able to have different viewpoints to be able to grow and learn and grow spiritually. Discouragement is inevitable, but growth is optional, and you'll grow when you learn together. And again, we'll talk more about some of the things that we faced in our group over the last several years. Carrying emotional burdens alone is tough. Sharing burdens lifts your spirit. One of the things we'll talk about when you first meet, you're going to do a check-in as you're having a meal together, and you're going to just, hey, how's everybody's week going? And it's a chance to go ahead and just share what's on your heart and have a safe place to go ahead, a soft place to land. And then the last one is revealing your feelings is the start of the healing process. You have to have a place where you can kind of unpack what you're going through, whether it's been just years of difficulties or disappointments or hurts, whatever it may be. A small group is a great place to unpack that. Or if it's more recently frustrations from work or dealing with marriage issues or problems with parenting, whatever it might be, it's a great place to work through, because sometimes even for us, we're in the role of being the leaders and the pastor of the church, but we have things where we pitch it to the group and say, hey, we're struggling with this in our parenting. Where are you guys at? What advice can you give to us to kind of encourage us? And then vice versa, we can encourage for marriage advice and back and forth. And so those are some of the group dynamics that kind of unfold. The next part for group dynamics is this. We'll see is that there's how to start a group, there's spaces and places, and Amanda's going to talk about that a little bit more in detail for us.
So Matt's kind of giving us the why and how we're going to set this up. I'm going to start diving into the really practical. So let's get into the nitty gritty. What does it look like? How do we do it? How do we begin? So the first point there, how to start a group. As Matt already said, we have groups that meet in homes. We have groups that meet in coffee shops, restaurants, you name it, we've done it. When we're looking to start a group, all you're looking for is a place that is going to work for you. That is simply it. If your home works for you, you open up your home and have people over. If a coffee shop works for you, you do a coffee shop. If a Barnes & Noble works for you, you do a Barnes. It's whatever's going to work for you and your group. Now, with that said, take into consideration, do you have a big group of kids? For us, we would never be able to do a group out at a restaurant because we have too many kids.
We did it one time. We did Chick-fil-A once.
We did Chick-fil-A one time, and
that
was it.
Playland, though, so that's where they stayed. Yeah.
But even that was a little bit of a train wreck.
Yeah.
So for us, we have to do it at a house or like something like a park would work for us. But we do it at the house because we can kind of control the chaos and keep it under control. My sister-in-law, she hosts a group that meets at Wegmans. It's a grocery store that has like food buffets, and hers is different women that are coming from different locations, and they kind of picked one focal point, and that's what works for them. So you find one that works. If you are going to be doing a video study and you're not comfortable being in a restaurant and listening to a video, that's a very valid concern. Then probably you're going to want to find something else that's going to work for you. So you can meet anywhere as long as you find out what's going to work for you and what's not going to work. So that's the first point. The second point is, what is the right size?
Good question, yeah.
We believe the best size for a group is somewhere around 6 people for at least the adult side. Now, you can have a growth group with as little as 2 people. The Bible says if you have 2 or 3 people gathered in my name, that God's in our midst. So 2 is like the bare minimum. We feel it's a lot better if you can pull in just even a third person. A third person gives you a little bit of accountability, because if it's just you and one other person and if one of you cancels, then it's like, oh, well, we'll just miss this week. And the next week we might miss as well. You lose momentum. Yeah. If you've got 3 people, it's now I've got to cancel with 2 people. I'm disappointing 2 people. So 3 people is a really good place to start. 10 is about, we say that's a little bit too much, because when you get 10 people gathered around the table, not everybody's going to get a chance to talk. You're going to have your people that speak a lot are going to get to talk a lot, but your introverted people aren't going to really get a chance to speak. So 6 people feels like a really good number. We right now have 8 adult. We have 8 to 10. We have 6 that consistently meet on Tuesday nights, and then 2 other couples that are kind of hit and miss. But we make it work. But it's a lot of adults to try to.
All there, it's like a feeding frenzy to discuss.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
Everybody's kind of diving. It's like traffic.
Right. Everybody wants to say something, and then somebody doesn't get a chance to say something, and then you got to get louder to try to put in your point.
Yeah.
So when we're talking about this now, our group is much larger because of all the kids, but we're talking about the people that actually sit at the table for the discussion. So 6 is like a really good round number. Yeah. I'd say around 6 or 8, but you can make it anywhere between 2 and 10.
Yeah. The next point, number 3, is this for group dynamics, is how to cultivate chemistry. Boy, chemistry is powerful. If you have somebody that doesn't get along with the rest of the group, it's going to be tough. I just saw a comic the other day that I sent it's a meme. I sent to Amanda, and she laughed out loud. She was in a grocery store and got it on her phone, laughed out loud, and the clerk was like, whoa. But if you can picture this in your mind, Jesus is standing on doing the Sermon on the Mount, and he says, you need to be kind to everyone. And so somebody shouts out from the crowd, even Gary? And somebody else says, yeah, Gary's the worst. And Jesus responds with, yes, even Gary. And then Gary chimes out from the back row, suck it, losers. And everybody kind of groans, and Jesus says, Gary, not now. Like, bad timing. But we all know people that are they are very disagreeable, or they're, the sky's blue. No, it's not. It's gray. Anything you say can be contrary. And so one of the things that we found is, if there's a temperament like that, it'll kind of, I found, it'll work itself out eventually, But if it's something that you say the chemistry just isn't here, that's okay. That's why one of the things we talk about is initially when you first start the group, just shoot for, hey, it's a 4-week commitment or it's a 6-week commitment. Right now we have, with the 5 groups we have going, we've said, hey, this is just a 6-week commitment. At the end of that, you can decide if you want to continue on with a group or shake things up, try another group, or if small groups isn't for you at all, you can just bow out, no problem. So with our online group, we just had week 4, and so we put the question out, hey, we've got 2 weeks left for this group. Would you like to continue on? And so the feedback we have right now is, hey, yeah, this is working well. We enjoy this, and so we want to keep going. In the lifetime of our small groups, we've had probably 5 or 6 different groups. We've had women's group. We tried a men's group. That didn't work. We jumped into a parents of teenagers group for a little bit, and so we just kind of mix things up here and there until we finally settle into a rhythm and routine and chemistry. And so one of those things that you're going to have to work through is if there's somebody that's just disagreeable, pray about it, ask God for wisdom. Maybe if you feel like you need to talk to them, say, hey, give other people a chance to chime in here.
But just reshuffle the group.
Yeah, just reshuffle the group. But again, that's one of the really big keys of giving it a time frame, 4, 5, 6 weeks, and naturally people will say, hey, yeah, I might try to find another group. It'll take anywhere from 4, 5, or 6 group chemistry or rounds to really find a group that works for you.
Sometimes you find a good group on the first try.
Yeah,
so it just depends.
Yeah, it just depends. So don't give up. It's like finding a good doctor or a good barber.
Yeah.
It may take a couple rounds. Number 4, develop some ground rules. Real quick, be aware of differences in spiritual maturity. If you have people that are coming into your group who are not believers at all, that's no problem. That's a great on-ramp for them, a good bridge for them to come in. But be aware of that. You're not going to want to jump into some kind of deep theological study for somebody who's just coming in. If somebody is struggling in growing, maybe they're a little bit further along, but they're struggling through something, just be aware of that. So people are different stages of spiritual maturity. Commit to the duration of the study. One of the goals with this, again, it's only 4, 5, or 6 weeks for the study, but we want to commit to the duration for this. So you want to find people that are saying, hey, I'll at least give it a good college try and do it for the duration. Honor confidentiality. What somebody shares in the group stays in the group. We want this to be a safe place for all. And so, again, you want it to be something, set the ground rule ahead of time. Hey, we're not going to gossip about things. If there's something that's brought up here, we want to present a problem and then present some kind of solution. What we're talking about here is for the people that are involved. And so if you're not a part of the problem, then don't talk about it. If you're not going to be a part of the solution, don't talk about it, but keep it confidential. And then the last point is this: encourage everybody to share. As a group host or facilitator, part of your responsibility is not to make it awkward for people. We've all been there when you've had somebody facilitate a group discussion, they ask a question, and then they just sit there in silence.
I hate that.
And it's super awkward. I've been in that, and I've seen people like high-powered professional like group facilitators use that as a technique. I think it's a no-go. It makes it awkward, and it doesn't facilitate discussion. It discourages discussion. So one of the things you want to find is, as you're going through discussion, ask somebody, hey, what is your experience or what is your opinion? Even if they're not far along in their spiritual maturity, everybody has something to contribute. And when you have everybody contributing, they feel that they have a vested interest in what's going on. They've got skin in the game, and then they feel like, hey, I'm making a contribution, and it makes people feel good and feel like, hey, I've got something invested here. So those are the group dynamics. Then we'll jump into number 2 for our discussion. We have then the meeting plan. We'll talk about the materials that you need and then the meeting schedule. The materials you need for whatever you're working through, there's curriculum that you can use. There are study guides. I'll show you one of ours in just a minute. You can use a video-based teaching. You might want to use something where if there's a pastor that has services or sermons live stream, maybe we've done that for time where we watched a pastor and took a video that was like a 45-minute sermon, and we watched 10 minutes at a time, and we stopped the video and asked discussions kind of on our own. You can use a book that's kind of like a book club concept. You can do a book study from the Bible. You can choose a passage of Scripture. We recently finished up in one of our small groups a study on the Sermon on the Mount of Matthew chapter 5, verses 3 through 12. You can do message notes. Sometimes in our at our church, we have small group discussion questions as a part of the message notes. You can also just use small group questions, kind of like what we have from the notes as well. So those are some things. Here's real quick. One of the things we're going through for our 40 Days of Faith. This is a small group study that we created that goes along with the sermon series on Sunday mornings, and so that's something that we use.
QR code for videos.
Yep. And so I'll just actually this doesn't have them, but there's video that we have on YouTube that corresponds with this. And one of the things that Amanda had mentioned too, I want to make a point of, if you're meeting in like a Wegmans situation, or even with what we're doing online, we do flip learning. And what that concept is people actually watch the videos prior to the meeting. And so you can go ahead and tell everybody, hey, watch session number 1 before you come to the meeting. And then we'll just do discussion during our time there. So you don't have to worry about being obtrusive or for other people that are meeting there. And you can just kind of keep to the book and don't have to worry about lugging around like a laptop or something like that. So that's just another thought there for you.
And then the second point on there is your meeting schedule. I get really, I'd say, intense about this part. And that is because a lot of people say like, okay, I'm going to do this. And they jump into it and they say, well, I don't need to follow a schedule. I don't need to do, like, those are just suggestions. And then lo and behold, a couple of weeks from now, they'll come back and they'll say, this group just really isn't working. And it's just, I think we're going to shut it down, or I think we need to do something else. And I'll say, okay, well, are you doing X, Y, Z? And I'll go through it with them and they're saying, oh, no. So let me tell you what the schedule is. And let me tell you, and we're going to talk through what happens when you don't follow along. So first of all, it's pretty easy. Welcome. That's just as people are coming in either to the restaurant or into your home. You're just saying, hey, everybody, come on in. Come grab a drink. Come grab something to eat or go get food. We'll meet back at the table. You're just welcoming people. Call them by their name as they come in, even for the first meeting. And then this.
Can you do one more thing right there? How do you set the environment for the home? Like, what are some things that you do to make it welcoming?
So for us, because it's at our home, we always have music playing. Usually we have Christian praise playing or piano quiet music in the background. I always have a candle burning. It just makes it smell good. Usually there's food cooking, but just in case there's not, there's always a candle going. I have music going. And then we do our best to keep the house what I call picked up. We have a group at our house every Tuesday. We have school all day long. We have all these things going on. So I'm not saying I'm not expecting you to deep clean your house. I don't deep clean my house on a Tuesday. I make sure my
fingerprints on the walls.
Yeah, I make sure my bathroom is clean and presentable, and I tell the kids make sure the main level is picked up and ready to go. Things are just neat and orderly. So when they come in, it smells good. The music is playing, the food is cooking, and it's been picked up, and we're ready for company. So people are ready for that. And then number 2 is the food. And we talked about you're going to be in different scenarios. If you're at a restaurant, you're at a coffee shop, whatever. At my home, because I love hospitality, I actually make a full meal every Tuesday night. Once a month, everybody brings food and we do a potluck. The other 3 weeks out of the month, I make a full meal. Now, some ideas for that are you can make this as little or as much as you want to do. If you want to have people over and you simply want to make a pan of brownies and have some coffee, that's fine. If you want to have a bowl of pretzels and a bowl of candy, that's great too. It's whatever works for you. You got to make it simple for you. If you don't like to cook, you can have your group order pizza every week and everybody just pays you money for it. You can do whatever you want to do. Sometimes I've done things where we have a baked potato bar and I make a bunch of baked potatoes and everybody brings a topping.
Crock pots are huge.
I do a lot of soups, a lot of crock pot stuff. A lot of times I'll do a big pot of soup and have bread and crackers, and that may be it for the night. It's as little or as much as you want to do. I'm huge on hospitality. I love cooking for people. I like having people over. So for me, that's easy. But you can make that work for you.
One of the guys, I swear, Darnell, I'll just throw him out there. His very first meal at our house was chips and nachos. Yeah. And like that was the hook. And he's like, he comes ever since.
Yeah. He's been coming for 6 years.
And he like at least once a month we have to have that.
Yeah. So then after everybody gets there, now with our group, we have a funny dynamic in that the first family shows up at 6 and the last family doesn't show up until about 8:30. That's what works for us. Your group probably isn't going to be like that. Most people have a set time that everybody comes. But when everybody does get there, catch up. Hey, how was your week doing? Come get some food. Sit around the table. Ask how was work today? How is this going at home? How are those things? You're just starting to catch up with them. You're starting to help everybody to relax. Especially if your group is new, this is so important. Before you're trying to jump into a Bible study or talk about something spiritual, just help people relax, help them to be comfortable. And then number 4, you're going to start the group time. So whatever you're going to be doing after you've eaten, usually what we'll do is we'll get everybody eaten. Everybody kind of mostly, maybe they're going to go back for seconds, but for the most part, they've grabbed their food. And what we'll do then is we'll grab the book that we're doing or the Bible study we're doing or the video we're going to watch, whatever it is, and we'll start that time. I often at that time will then put out a tray of dessert. And by that, I mean, it may be store-bought cookies. It may be a big pack of Oreos I put on a nice tray and put it on the table. That way people know that they can grab a dessert and they can munch on it while we're doing the study. I offer the Keurig if anybody wants to make coffee or tea. So everybody's just really comfortable. They grab that dessert. And then we start into the Bible study part of the night. Matt always leads that. I'm kind of moving around, still dealing with kids if they have a problem. And then I come sit, and then somebody will call me away, and I'll come. So I'm kind of moving around still. But we'll start the Bible study part of the night. And then after that is discussion questions. So whatever we did, whether we read the book or whether we watched a video, whether we did a Bible study question, whatever it is, Matt always makes sure that we have application questions. Because it doesn't matter if we study the Bible or if we watch something, if we're not discussing it, you're not going to remember it. It's not going to apply. And at that point, a lot of times you'll have two people will have questions. Okay, this didn't make sense to me, or what did he mean when he talked about this? Or this made me think of this question I had. And then after that, we always end with prayer. We always go around, even if it's late and we've got to get going and somebody's like, okay, I got to get going. We'll just say, okay, prayer request real quick. What can I pray for? We ask everybody. And then Matt always prays for us. If you've got a group that, our group is now getting to the point where other people will pray, but for a long time they were too scared to pray. If you've got newer believers, don't push them. Don't press them into that. Just pray. Do it for them so that they don't have to feel awkward or embarrassed. And then at the end, we just say, okay, next week we're meeting at this time and this place, or it's this food, or, whatever it is, just talk about next step. Now, let me go back and hit really quickly. All of those are really important. But to have a group, you need food, you need a Bible study, and you need fellowship. Those are the 3 things. And when, like I talked about earlier, when I have somebody that comes back to me and says, oh man, group just isn't for me, or group isn't working. Now, sometimes it's that we need to reshuffle the group. Yeah. Maybe that group isn't gelling. But if the group dynamics are good, but they say, oh, it's just not going well. And I'll ask some questions. Okay, what are you doing for food? Oh, well, we decided it was just easier to not do food. Okay, well, right off the bat, you're going to be at a huge deficit, because when people come to your house or wherever they're at, they're nervous, even if they've been there 100 times. Think about how you feel when you're going to somebody else's house or when you're meeting somebody at a restaurant. Unless it's your best friend, there's a little bit of nerves, and that's where food breaks down their barriers. If you do a study in the gospel, Jesus used food almost every time he got together with people. Why? It breaks down barriers. It helps you to relax. And it also practically feeds you. We tried for a couple months not doing food. At our group, it was a train wreck. People were in such a bad mood, especially the people that hadn't had a chance to eat before they came to group. Yeah. They were so cranky, so irritable. We had one guy that started going to our refrigerator. Yeah, he would just be like, "Do you have any leftovers from dinner?"
I walked in the kitchen, and he was like, had his head in our refrigerator. I was like, "Dude, are you okay?" Oh, I'm just so hungry, man.
Yeah, that was a train wreck. So, you may think I'm crazy. If you don't believe me, try it yourself. But food makes such a huge difference. Yeah. The other thing is to fellowship with people. If you just try to jump into a study with people, like, okay, what does God's word say about this? You may have somebody that has had horrible news. They may have found out something horrible, and there's no way they can do a Bible study with what's on their heart. I heard a story several years ago of a family that we know that was in group. This was at another church like 20 years ago. And they said the worst group they ever had was there was a lady in their group that was sitting there with tears coming down her cheeks, and nobody would stop the study long enough to ask what was wrong. They said it was so awkward. It was so weird. That is not what group's about. We've had sometimes where we don't even get to the Bible study because somebody's had something or they're dealing with something. So if you don't meet those needs first, you're never going to have a good Bible study. And then third, I have those groups then that say, well, we fellowship and we get to talking, but we never get to the Bible study, but we're fellowshipping. That's good. And I'm a huge advocate of fellowship. But if you're not actually doing a Bible study, if you're not actually learning and growing, then the whole point of the group is not really a growth group. It's not really a small group. It's just a fellowship. It's just like getting together with a friend for dinner. It's great, but there's no spiritual implication. There's no spiritual growth. So if you're not doing a study of some sort right then, right there, that night, don't expect to grow. You're not going to grow. You're not going to grow closer as a group because God hasn't been invited into that time. So those are why I'm really passionate. Those are the parts that you need to make your growth group really work.
Yeah. Then we have the next part is that's kind of the meeting plan. And then we have our meeting facilitation. So how exactly, let me just double check this here. There we go. Meeting facilitation. So number one, how to encourage group discussion. We always say to whether you're playing a video, have people watch it ahead of time, watch it together as the group host or facilitator, be taking notes. One of the best things that you can do is to go through the material ahead of time. So there's no surprises. We've had that happen where we play a video or have a discussion or a question comes up in the group guide and I'm thinking, man, I didn't see that coming. I wasn't prepared. And you want to prepare yourself ahead of time by knowing what you're getting into and then being able to think, okay, how can I ask different people? And the other thing too, to be a great host or a great facilitator is one of the most powerful things you can do is be a great listener. And so if somebody is making a comment, you want to affirm them. Hey, that's a great point. If somebody says, maybe even somebody says something that's not theologically correct, or maybe somebody says something that like they committed,
out there.
Right, they committed a crime. Okay, maybe you need to stop there and address that issue. But for the most part, if you have somebody who makes a comment and you say, well, actually, no, you're wrong, you're going to kill the vibe, and my hunch would be they're probably not going to come back to group. But you want to encourage, the goal isn't, hey, I'm the star of the show. The goal is I want to be a hero maker and really encourage people, because you'll have people that are listening and they're gonna make some points, and hey man, that's so good. So you want to be the cheerleader, you want to be a coach, you want to be an encourager.
And if you do get somebody that makes one of those points, you can always circle back to it.
Yeah.
You can kind of come around later and be like, well, what do you guys think about that? And how you don't have to jump on it, pounce on it, but you also don't have to let it go.
Yeah.
You can come back and hit it at a later point.
That's a great point. Yeah. So I don't want to tie your hands either, but just use wisdom and discernment and really ask the Holy Spirit to lead you and guide you in that moment.
Yeah.
The next part is to go with the guide. And that being, use the materials that you have. So like Amanda had mentioned, if you have a moment where somebody's saying, hey, we're about to get divorced. Okay, yeah, pause. Like let's address that. That's more important than, like if somebody is bleeding out of their carotid artery, but they have a stubbed toe, I'm going to deal with the carotid artery before I deal with the stubbed toe. So the idea is you want to address the issue, but then the goal is always getting back to staying on course. A couple reasons. One is you want to honor people's time.
Yeah.
You may have somebody who needs a massive amount of attention, and if you keep giving them that attention every week with a heart to help, you're going to frustrate people who are maybe they're there, but they want to keep things moving. So honor people's time. And if somebody says, hey, I really want to go deeper with this, hey, you know what? We'll come back to that. We're going to pray, close in prayer, and then you and I, you can stay after if you want to. We've had that. We've had people stay till midnight.
I think almost every week.
12:30,
somebody stays to be able to talk to you.
Yeah. And that's one of the dynamics too. We have people come early and they get a chance to do some one-on-one with us, people that stay late. So that's a great dynamic there. Plan for spontaneity. We kind of already talked about that. Be ready for people if they're dealing with issues. The whole point is you want to make this a greenhouse of growth so people can unpack their stuff. Sunday morning, you can't have somebody raise their hand, hey, I don't agree, or I don't understand, or hey, I'm in sin. Like, we've had people confess things or talk about things or unpack things, big, major life issues out of nowhere. And so we're able to discuss some of those things. Keep the end goal in mind. What's the end goal? Is the end goal that we're gonna finish this material because we want to get it finished? The goal is growth. The goal is helping spiritually to grow. So you're going to start with what Amanda talked about, fellowship, and then you want to go to discipleship to learn and grow together. And then the next goal then is to do ministry. In the life stage of our group, we're transitioning from the discipleship portion now into getting into ministry, in that there's some serving opportunities we're presenting to our group we're going to do together. There's some different things in our community that we're looking to go ahead and get involved with as a part of our group. And so that's really kind of moving through the spiritual growth process. So that's how to do group facilitation. Then we want to go ahead and we want to talk about some different resources that we have, small group resources. To plan for success, Amanda's going to go ahead and jump in here and talk about that.
Book real quick.
Yep.
So planning for success, we actually have in our study guides that we create. I have this one right here. This is the one we keep referencing. And the back of the book has all sorts of things for growth group. It has calendars, has group calendars. When are we going to have the meetings? It has a group contact information page so you can have everybody's number, everybody's email. It has a place for prayer requests. It has like a lot of this stuff that we're talking about is in the book. So when we say like, hey, plan for success, you need to plan out, okay, when are we going to meet? How long are we going to meet? Give everybody the dates. What's the food plan? Is everybody bringing food? Are we each going to take a week? What's that going to look like? Make sure you have everybody's phone number. Make sure everybody has each other's contact information. Make sure everybody has the right study. We've done that where we're ready to do a study and everybody shows up and they're like, oh, we were supposed to bring, I didn't bring it. I didn't bring it either. And we're like, oh my goodness. So make sure everybody has the right study, whether that's the book, whether that's the study guide, and it may just be that you're, doing questions together, whatever it is. Make sure everybody has everything they need. And especially for your first meeting, make sure everybody knows where to go, what time to be there, make sure they have the address. Those are just things to make people feel welcome, to feel at ease so that they know what's going on, especially for those people who like me are planners. And then the 10 Commandments for small group, that is actually right out of our book, our study guide. I'm just going to go through those quickly. And those are commit to showing up, commit to being prepared. If you're supposed to watch the video ahead of time, commit to that. If you're supposed to read the chapter in the book ahead of time, whatever it is, commit to that. Commit to limit freedom. This one is a little bit tricky, but this is what we ask our groups. We ask our groups to limit our freedom by refraining from serving or consuming alcohol during this time. Everybody has a different belief on this, and we're in a church of young believers, and not everybody we're not all on the same page with alcohol, but because we're a group meeting through the church, we ask that you limit alcohol. And this is probably something you want to consider with your groups, just so that you don't have somebody that comes in your group that really struggles with that. And then everybody's sitting around drinking alcohol and now they're really going to have a hard time. Commit to being hot. H.O.T, honest, open, and transparent. Nobody likes it when somebody just sits there and like, no, I don't have any problems and I've got my act together and I have all the answers. Commit to be safe. Commit that you're not going to judge each other. We're not going to come down hard on something. Commit to being confidential. Matt already covered this, that whatever we talk about in this group does not leave these four walls. Commit to resolving conflicts. If there is a disagreement in the group, maybe you're discussing something and it gets kind of out of hand, commit to working through that. Commit to working through relationships. Commit to being spiritually healthy and mature. Commit to be warm and welcoming, and commit to building each other up. We always say group is not just about meeting at a one-time place or location. Group is about checking in with each other throughout the week and praying for each other. So it's not just a one-time thing.
I'm gonna just circle back to something Amanda said. This is kind of small group training, like 2.0 level kind of stuff. I'm gonna mention here for just a minute. I hesitate saying this, but I want to give you some eyes wide open encouragement. With small group, you're dealing with people and relationships, and it's complicated. People are not one-dimensional. People are multifaceted, and people are dealing with all kinds of issues and struggles, doubts and fears, and they're looking to the church or to your group to be a place that's safe for them, and they're looking for it to be a place that they can stumble and fall and mess up and not have somebody jump all over their back. With that said, we've been in situations where people have shared something very personal and started crying, and you've got to be prepared for that. And the thing is, you don't want to make our goal is to make people cry. No, but you want it to be some place where people are safe enough that they can say, man, I'm really hurting over this issue. And we've had that. We've had times where we've been in a situation where the discussion started going, and we've had people actually get up and leave and go out and sit in their car because they were triggered. Something was said. And you well, what do? You let people go, and you let that go through. I circle back around to talk about it, but it's all those obstacles and problems are actually opportunities for you to grow deeper and to go deeper with people, to encourage them. So don't worry about some of those things that are happening. They're going to happen. if you can imagine it, we've had it take place. We've had kids like get hurt and start bleeding. We've had all kinds of different stuff.
Anything that could happen, we've had happen.
Right, yeah, we've gotten phone calls in the middle of group.
And...
we were in a group and somebody had their front door torched, arsoned. So like crazy stuff goes on. But the whole idea is you're doing life together. There's the common bond that you're spending time together. We want to talk about how to grow your group. In the back of our study guide, I just dropped a link in the comment section for you. One of the things I'll say this, what you're getting in the workbook is really a stripped down overview of all the concepts. Any study guide from Manney Resources that you get has all this information in so much more detail. If that's kind of how you consume information and learn, and you want to have that, any of our study guides have that and all this information in much more detail in there. So how to grow your group. You want to look for the circles of impact you have. Church is a great place to start. Who's sitting in your row? Go to them. Hey, are you involved in a small group? No, I'm not actually. Hey, would you like to go ahead and get involved in a group with me? And so you start with your church, start with your neighborhood, talking to people in your neighborhood. As you have opportunity and people ask questions, that's a great place to start and talk to people about the Lord. You can have some of the places that you frequent. And so there's some places, restaurants or the library or different places where you shop. We've got relationships with people at different places we frequent. We're on a first name basis with them, and we're inviting them to church and inviting them. So take those opportunities. You never know. We talk about keeping in mind the whole traffic light concept of relationships. If somebody's giving you like, no, don't cross this boundary, it's a red light, you stop. Don't cross the line. If somebody's giving you a green light, hey, I'm interested. Tell me more. Invite them to your group. If somebody's giving you a yellow light, like, I'm not sure, just drive right through the yellow light. That's what you're supposed to do, right? And so the idea is, did you want to jump in?
Yeah, I think it's really good to know our group. Actually, every adult that is in our group did not come from church. Yeah. They actually started coming to group at different times over the different years, and some of them took 2 years before they started coming to church.
Yeah, so I take back what I said earlier. I said we all have a common bond in that we met at church, but we didn't. You're right.
Each one of those people came. Like one of them, we had made a connection with through an employee. Like the employee came to church, and they told us about this friend, so we had them over, and then they invited a friend. But we were all strangers. Yeah. They didn't come to church, and they didn't come to church right away even. But over the years, with time putting into them, it's come full circle.
Yeah, it's so funny you say that, because the front door for church has actually been through our living room. Yeah. As strange as that sounds. So that's how to grow your group. Big thing with this, 3 thoughts. Pray first. God, is there somebody that I can invite into my home, or I can invite out to a cup of coffee? And the other thing too, to encourage you, you may not want to have the very first, if somebody's not a believer and they're not a churchgoer, you may not want to have the very first discussion where you come in with a big family Bible and thump it down on the table. All right. It may be just getting to know them, breaking the ice, developing trust. They get to know you, they get to like you, and then they'll trust you, and ultimately helping them go through that process as well with God. So how to grow your group. We've got a whole kind of a matrix in the back of the book that actually shows you, that has fill-ins for you to go ahead and get some ideas about how to grow your group through those different circles. People that you go to the gym with, your kids are in the same baseball, on the same baseball team. School is a great place. Maybe family members. You have a family member who's kind of interested. We had a great semi one-off small group discussion with a family member. Contacted us, hey, I'm in the area, it's after church, and they stopped by the church, and we were there for 5 or 6 hours just talking about life and God, and it was like a one-off small group opportunity, but it was great. It was family. So those are just some different circles of influence that you have. How about frequently asked questions for us? A couple of things that we sometimes people ask about are things like, how long is the group going to meet? You want to let people know from the outset, hey, there's a start time to this. It's going to be 4 weeks, and there's going to be an end time. That way they have an easy out. What does the host or facilitator do? We've kind of hit that a lot already. Another one is where we find new group members. Again, the circles of influence and impact. Childcare. Multiple different ways to do this. What works for us is the kids, they start off in another small dining room area that we have, and then the rule is either outside, upstairs, or downstairs. So they kind of we constantly have little ones that are coming to the table. Mom, I want this, I want that. And so at any given time, somebody's got a child. Some mom has somebody else's kid on their lap, trying to help so we can talk and discuss. And it's great because in our situation it works well. that's the stage of life we're all in. Some groups, there's some other encouragement, other ideas to work it out, to pay maybe a babysitter, or you take turns with another group maybe that has kids. And then what if this group isn't working? Again, we always go back to you put a deadline on it. Hey, this is for 4 weeks or 5 weeks or whatever. Most often, by the point, if you have a group that's not gelling and there's not chemistry, you're going to find that out most often by week 3, week 4. And then you can say, hey, let's kind of regroup. Let's get some help. And again, I would encourage you. You can reach out to us, or if you're not coming to Greater Philly, if you have a pastor, talk to a pastor, or even Google how to deal with small group issues or chemistry. And there's a lot of resources online even that talk through that. From there, we want to mention we've got some different small group resources. Putting it all together then. Have a heart for people, open your home, serve something, and then turn on a video. Serve a something. Serve a cup of coffee, serve a meal, serve a something, serve anything. And then as we come down the home stretch, and we have different resources as you see there. There's a 40 Days of Faith. Amanda also has a women's Bible study, small group study called Finding Free. That's discussion based. There's not a video that goes with that.
It goes with the book.
Just for the book, she's got a book called Finding Free, and so you can get her book Finding Free and the study guide that goes really well. So it's really like a book club kind of a feel for you. And then we have a brand new resource coming up here soon. You Are Not Alone. It's a study through some of the promises of Psalms, and so there's 6 different Psalms we talk about there. And some encouragement how to
those are all small group studies.
All small group studies, and so that new one is coming out here in just a couple months. So if you have questions or you're watching the replay, feel free to drop a thought or a question in the comments, and we'll get back to you. As well, we've got another training coming up in next Saturday, and let's see if we can pull that up. 3 steps to prayer, and so we're going to pivot here from small groups. And we'll have 3 steps to prayer. We're going to talk about prayer when it comes to journaling, and we'll talk about the 3 parts of our journal prayer. We'll have a journal page example to give to you. And then as a bonus, we'll as well have prayers for any situation you might be in. And so we'll have a downloadable cheat sheet for you to be able to help you with praying in any kind of situation you might find yourself in. That's small groups. That's 6 years in 50 minutes. So you can learn it the hard way and work for 6 years and try to figure it out. Or you can go ahead and just grab everything that we have given you is in our study guide. So I think that's it. Anything else you want to say?
Just that I sometimes on Tuesdays I'm tired and I have to clean the whole house and I have to go to the store and get the food. And sometimes it doesn't feel good. And sometimes I'm like, I don't want to go to growth group tonight. I don't want to have growth group. But I cannot tell you, I don't know that there's ever been a time that I've gotten done with growth group and been like, oh, I wish we wouldn't have done that. Always. Now, every night is not like a home run, but almost every time I'm like, oh, that was so good. I needed that. So I can tell you, if you do put the time into this, if you do commit to a small group, you will not regret it. These are the people that we've learned to do life with, and we all know we need to do life with other people, but fitting in the time is so hard. Well, this is an opportunity to just fit it into your weekly schedule. Instead of trying to schedule coffee with a friend and play dates and trying to do, I'm horrible at that stuff, but I know every Tuesday night I'm going to get together with this group of friends, and we're going to do life together. We're going to pray together. We're going to do Bible study together, and I don't have to schedule anything else for the rest of the week because I'm checking in with those friends on Tuesday night.
And the thing I would, if you remember the picture that we showed you of the kids, what I love is that we have not just impacts on people impacting our lives, we have other parents impacting our kids, and also we've got little kids coming into Pastor and Miss Amanda's house on a Tuesday night.
Pastor Manney,
and that's Manny. That's a rhythm that's so healthy in a culture that's filled with uncertainty and chaos. Back in the 1970s, a guy wrote a book where the term information overload came out, and he talked about zones of safety. And you have companies like Google and Apple who are creating these sensory-free pods where people can take a nap in their workplace because they're so overloaded. And these islands of safety, if you will. That's what Tuesday night is for us. That's what Tuesday night is for our group, and that's what Tuesday night or small groups are for in our ministry, are places and spaces of safety for people to be encouraged, to be recharged. And we do this because it's impacting. My parents were involved in a small group back in the 70s, so this is nothing new, but it impacted their salvation and their spiritual walk journey, and they've been involved in groups of different sorts and different aspects. We're doing it now as a second generation, and my kids, we had to cancel a couple weeks ago because I was sick, and they were upset with me, like, Dad, get your act together, come on, it's groups tonight. And so that's the encouragement. You're impacting the next generation so they can see what it's like to love and see what it's like to be involved and grow spiritually. So that's it. We can keep talking about it a lot more. We're passionate about it, but we love you. Track with us next week. Go ahead and get the workbook download. You'll be on our Manney resource email list, and so any updates for any new trainings that we have will be on there, as well any new resources that we have or book launches available, we'll have those as well. And our goal is to continue on, and the more feedback you give to us, the more letting us know what kind of resources and training you need, we'll be able to provide that for you. And so we've got literally months worth of training and ideas that we are working through and preparing for. But as you give us feedback, it really helps us to know what we can do to help you to grow your faith so you can change your life. Hey, thanks so much for watching and joining with us today. We'll see you next Saturday, next Saturday, so you can grow your faith and change your life. Thanks so much for watching.